Hello and welcome to this walkthrough about how to manage sensitive data while developing locally in .NET. Before we get started, I just want to go over the prerequisites that you need to kind of have at least before, so you can follow along. One of the prerequisites is you need to make sure .NET Core is installed. I'm using .NET 6, but an older version of .NET should suffice. The commands I'll be using will be compatible. If you don't know how to install .NET Core on an Ubuntu system, I do have a tutorial walking you through that. I'll link it in the description box below. You should also be familiar with C# and the JavaScript object notation. You don't have to be an expert in it, just know the syntax. And if you don't know the syntax, that's fine too. I'm going to walk you through what I'm doing. We're going to be creating a web API project, and we're going to be modifying some of the configurations in there, and also the secrets that we create are going to be stored in a JSON file, and I'll show you that later on. The other thing you need is a code editor that you're comfortable in using. I won't dictate which one you should use. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code just because it's freely available. The next thing is just be comfortable using the terminal, or at least have access to the terminal. We're going to spend quite a bit of time, or most of this tutorial is going to be spent in the terminal itself. Before we jump into the code itself and using and managing our secrets within .NET, I just want to kind of walk you through a typical process that a developer go through when they're working on a new feature. Essentially what would happen here is they create a local branch from a main repo. As you see here by number 1 here, they just kind of create that local branch on their system, and then typically they would need some sort of the project would need some sort of dependency, like some secrets, for example, a connection string to a database, and that would be stored in a secure storage such as Azure Key Vault. We won't be touching on Azure Key Vault because that's going to be outside of the scope of this tutorial. Maybe in the future we'll look to see if I create something and how to interact with Azure Key Vault. But once the developer gets those secrets, they need to put them somehow or inject them during runtime into their project. I'm hoping they're not putting them in the code, but anyways, I don't want to divert too much. But typically what would happen is they would use environment variables, the environment variables of their operating system, and then they would kind of put those secrets in there, and then during runtime they would make a reference or try to access those keys and kind of use them that way. The other way, and this is the way we're going to be looking at today, is using AppSecrets, which is a local file that is outside of your main code and is stored on your system. And when your project runs, similar to environment variables, they're just injected into your project, and those dependencies are available so your project can use them, or this sensitive data is available for your project. Now the whole purpose behind this is to make sure that we don't check in that sensitive data back into the repo. So we want to keep those sensitive data outside of the main code base. So that's enough me kind of showing you the diagram. Let's jump into the code. So I'm going to navigate over to Visual Studio Code. I'm going to press Control tilde, and that's going to open up the terminal on the bottom here. And the tilde button is just the key on your keyboard to the left of the number 1 key. The next thing I want to do here is I want to navigate to a directory which I want to store or create this web API project. It doesn't matter where you create it, so you can follow along. I just want to keep my stuff organized there. I know I have a directory and subdirectory called AppSecrets. I'm just going to navigate into that. So then I'm going to issue our first command, which is to create the web API project that we're going to be working with. So that's going to be web API, and I'm going to specify a name here. You can call your project whatever you want. I just called it web. You can call it whatever, like my project, my web application, whatever you want. I'm just going to call it web. So now that it created successfully, and then it restored any NuGet packages that this project needs, so that's good. I'm going to cd into that project after creating it, and I'm going to do a quick clear of the terminal here. Since I'm using Visual Studio Code, I'm going to issue the following command to just open the directory so I can view the files, and I can show you the files as well. If you're not using Visual Studio Code, you just need to go into that solution, into that project file location, and then just open the project from there. Okay, So it just reloaded itself and opened the project that I just created, which is called web. What is this? Yep. The next thing I want to do here is make sure, this is where we're going to start working with the JSON as I mentioned. So I'm going to create a property called keys. Let's assume that we have, we need, our project depends on some keys for, what is this project? Weather forecast control. So let's say there's a key for the weather forecast API, right? And this is a secret that we want to make sure that we don't put in our code. So what we're going to do here is go weather API key. I'm going to set this to an empty value. You don't have to do this, but the reason I'm doing this is just to show you, for you to visualize. You can, a matter of fact, skip this particular step and put your keys in your secret store, which we'll see later. But usually what would happen in this case is, remember when I was showing you that Azure Key Vault, one of the approaches, and maybe this is something I can talk about later, is you can inject those keys when you're building your project in a DevOps environment. So when before you deploy like to let's say to Azure Cloud or something like that, you can inject those keys, and then they will just go along with your project, but they won't be visible to anyone. They'll just run in your application. But anyways, I don't want to sidetrack and I kind of get you lost. So let's say keys, weather API key. So the first thing I want to do here, make sure this file is saved. Navigate back to the web.cs proj and pay attention to this particular block here, which is a property group. And one more thing that I want you to pay attention to here, and you might get this exception, and that's why I'm kind of showing you this. I'm going to navigate outside of the web project that I have here. I'm going to issue the command that we're going to issue in a bit to initialize the user secrets. And notice, because I'm not within the project and I issue this command, if you're not in the project itself and the secret manager cannot find the project that you're trying to link those secrets that you're trying to create, it's going to give you this exception. So make sure that you are within the web project that we just created. Okay, so I'm going to navigate back into the web, clear the screen. I'm just going to up arrow until I get to the command that I issued earlier, which is .NET UserSecrets init, and it's going to initialize that. Notice when I issued this command, it created a new property with this GUID. This is how the secret manager is going to link your project to the secrets that are located locally on your machine outside of your code base. So whenever you ask for a key, it's going to go look in there, and it's going to see if it can find it and bring it back and give it to you during runtime. And we'll see that in an example shortly. The next thing I want to do is, now that we initialize the keys, I want to now set a key, right? So remember, I have a key here that my project depends on. It's called the Weather API key, and I want to be able to access that key. So how do I do that? How do I get the value for it? So I go .NET UserSecrets, and I want to set keys. What I'm doing here, let me just finish this and I'll tell you what I just did. Weather API key. In order for me to access this property, I need to do what is called flattening. So I need to flatten this particular properties, this top level property and then internal property. So I just combine the two, and this is what this means. There's a term they call it flattening. And then after that, I'm going to put a space, put another quotation marks, and I'm going to set the value to whatever I want. So I'm going to say my weather API key 1. I'm just going to set this value there for it. And then I'm going to press enter. So now what happened is, you see I get another message that says successfully saved keys, weather API key to this value, right, to the secret store. So that's good. So your next question will be, well, how do I see the secret store or these values? Where are they located? I'm going to show you where they're located on an Ubuntu system or my system. And then what I'm going to do in the description box, I'll put the location of it on a Windows. I think Mac would be exactly similar to where it is, but I'll see if I can put that for you in the description box. So give me a second here. Let me open up my File Explorer. Okay, or File Manager. So make sure you're under Home, and then press Control H to show the hidden folders and files. And there's a folder that's going to go .microsoft. So I'm going to double click on that, and you see there's another folder called UserSecrets. I'll double click on that. I'm going to minimize this, or just shrink it down, navigate back to Visual Studio Code, and then the WebCS proj. Notice that this GUID matches this one. So 3D A76, or sorry, 7F61F. So it created a folder, and this is again how it linked it to your project to the secrets folder. Inside of this folder, you're going to see another file called secrets.json. If I open this file, you'll see that it stored whatever I specified for a key and the value for it. And this particular file and folder are excluded from your code, so they're not going to be checked in. And this is how you kind of separate the two. Now, the other thing we want to check here is how do we access that file, right? So we know that this is empty, and it's going to return nothing if I try to access it, because there's nothing there. So how do I get the value from the secret store? Well, I'm going to do a little bit of dependency injection here. And the next thing I'm going to do is read only configuration, and then I am going to assign the value to it. And once I've injected the configuration, I want to go over to the weather forecast model, and I'm going to create another property here called WeatherApiKey. And in there, I'm just going to put a get and a set. I'll leave that there. Navigate back to the weather forecast controller. And here I'm just showing you, you don't want to do this like in a real production application. You don't return your secrets. You're trying to protect those, but I just want to show you that how it's being fetched, like they're actually being fetched when I ask for them. Now you can probably use this in different locations, but here I'm just giving you an example. So weather forecast API is going to equal to configuration, and the way I access it is again using the configuration that I created here, that I created up here, and then I'm going to put 2 square brackets and the name of the key that I need to get the value for. And I specified here, remember if you recall, this is the key name that we specified. So I'm just going to copy that and then put it in there and save it. So everything should be saved. I can close out of that. And now I'm just going to clear the screen and do a .NET run. So this is going to build my project and then run it. And if all goes well, yes. I'm just going to press Control and click on this first link to navigate to the browser. And then I'm going to go do a /swagger to navigate to the OpenAPI specification. And all I did was I expanded this and I click try out. And I'm going to click execute, and it's going to return, you see it returned the property, and it gave me the value for it, my weather API key 1. So there you go, we got access to it. Now your next question might be, well, how do I, if I want to change the value that I already set, how do I do that? Well, very simple. So I just pressed the up arrow a couple of times to navigate where I set the key originally, and I'm just going to navigate this. My new weather API key version, I'm just putting random version 2. Oops. Okay. And I'm just going to press enter. So now it updated the value again, and it set it to the new value that I'm asking for. I'll rerun the project. Actually, I don't even have to go there since this is already open. And let's say I execute, and you see it gave me the new value that I asked for. And that's essentially how you would manage secrets. Use the secret manager to keep sensitive data outside of your code. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and thank you for watching.